When you're facing a medical emergency, time is critical. Every minute matters. And today, time is on your side. Because Northcrest Medical Center is ready 24/7. We have the experience and expertise to act decisively, and the leading-edge technology crucial for life-saving surgery, letting you get back to the life you love. Northcrest Medical Center, bringing exceptional care to our community.
The Robertson County Airport Board, which is tasked with the operation of the Robertson County Airport in Springfield, is facing a lawsuit by its current FBO manager, Wingnuts Aviation, for breach of contract. The dispute focuses on the terms and conditions of the 5-year option, according to Wingnuts Aviation attorney Edward Hadley. The short of it is, the county contends that both parties must agree to extend the contract based on performance. Hadley contends that the contract offers his client, Wingnuts Aviation, unilateral authority to exercise the renewal of the contract, and if the board has issues with performance, the issues must be clearly defined and time must be given to correct the issues.
Well, there was originally a 5-year contract. There's no doubt about that, and there's no doubt that it takes some renewal process to get the second 5 years. And it's the county and city's version that both sides have to be satisfactory with the first 5 years of performance of both sides.
But you're saying that's not an issue, though?
Well, that it could be an issue. The airport board voted at its last meeting that they were inclined to believe that the total package of being satisfactory for the 5 years was not satisfactory. And if that's the case, then it's the county and city's view that the contract does not automatically renew, that it terminates when it runs out February 14th.
And that's where we end up with our terminology problem, right?
Yes, terminology problem, and the Wingnuts people believe that point to some other language in the contract that says if you want to terminate us like midstream, then you have to give us a list of reasons, give us a time to cure or fix those problems. But the county and city's legal position is that has to do if you're terminating somebody midway. This idea about just renewing the contract has completely different rules and
so
words.
they're seeing it as a 10-year contract. You're seeing it as a 5-year contract with the possibility of it becoming a 10-year contract if you want to do that. So you've chosen not to do that, and so that's where
that's the crux of the matter. And at the same time, there are issues I think that both the airport board and Wingnuts have indicated in some ways they'd like to sit down and talk about this, but for various reasons it just seems that that talk around the table has not happened.
Do you think this can fix itself with conversations, or is this going to end up in court?
Well, it's in court today as of Monday of this week. My goal
that
is
doesn't mean it has to stay there.
No, my goal is to see by raising the issues today if there can be a meaningful conversation with or without lawyers that can discuss going forward and see if that's possible. That may head nowhere, and or it could have some resolution.
Now let me try to ask the impossible question. Obviously, I'm presenting the news to the county. If I were to say, why should the average, Robertson County citizen care about what's going on here? What would it mean to the average citizen? How is it affecting their lives? Is there a way to do that?
Well, the airport is a very, very growing part of the community. You're aware, Jim, of the new terminal. The city and the county have made contributions. Many private people, many businesses have made contributions to this new airport. So it's at a special time in the history of the Robertson County Springfield Airport, and we need the best leadership and arrangement and management, particularly at this critical time. So it is of very much importance to local citizens how all of this is resolved.
So as a result of the critical position that the airport is in right now, they've chosen to go another direction, and so we're down to an interpretation of whether or not this is a 5 or a 10-year contract.
Well, the other direction, if they hire an airport manager, it is possible that the roles could be discussed and mediated where a part of the Wingnuts job could still be done by Wingnuts and an airport manager could have their role. So those two jobs can coexist if that was agreed on.
Okay, so There could be an agreement there, out there somewhere,
yes,
if everybody could sit down and talk.
True.
Smokey Barn News recorded Clyde Richards' full presentation to the board about the suit last week. We have added it here for your review.
It's not always good when your lawyer says he needs to sit up at the table with you. So, but that's where we're at. We're at a unique situation, and I do have some thoughts about it that I'll express to you. You're probably aware, as of Monday of this week, Wingnuts and Anna and Chris have filed a lawsuit against the city, against the county, against the airport board and other folks, basically alleging that they believe that the contract should be extended for another 5 years when it expires February 14th. There are other statements in there, but I think that's the upshot of it, is they want the contract extended. You might remember the board got a letter from Chris and Anna back before Christmas at some time, basically, in their view, exercising their option to renew, was the wording. Then the lawsuit against the board basically says that the board's not giving Wingnuts a list of things they're doing wrong and giving them 30 days to cure or fix those problems. Now, I'll tell you, kind of how I see things, and then I'll give you some thoughts. And I'll probably talk to the Wingnuts lawyers, and we need to have a lawyer talk. Sometimes lawyers see things one way, and another lawyer sees purple when they see gray. That's human nature, but lawyers have that same issue too. Sometimes lawyers want to see purple because their client wants them to see purple. And so, but my view of the contract, as I've explained to the board before, is that if you're going to terminate somebody in the middle of the contract, there is some clear language about giving them notice, telling them what you think they have done wrong, and giving them an opportunity to cure it or fix it before you say you're out. And there's no doubt that that language is in our contract. That's not unusual to have that. I don't think that is the issue, though. The issue is whether or not the contract's going to be completely performed come February 14th. The board is not trying, as I understand it, to terminate or default Wingnuts. The issue is whether the current contract is going to be renewed on its same terms. Renewing a contract is a horse, and trying to fire somebody in the middle of a contract for default is a cow. Those are two completely different things. And as I read the contract, the issue about renewal is whether both parties say that they are satisfactory with the performance of the other side. And in fairness to Chris and Anna, I think their letter saying they want to exercise their option to renew, although I really don't think there is an option to renew, but I think clearly that indicates on their side that they are satisfied with the first 5 years and they want another 5 years. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to that. So, after I got this filing Monday, I've been in touch with the county mayor, with the chairman of your board, with the county's insurance people. Had a long talk with them yesterday, and it's my hope that the city insurance people and their lawyer, they will assign a separate lawyer, and the county will have a lawyer. Now, it could be that that lawyer may be one in the same law firm. It's a little bit of a unique situation. Who the lawyer will be to defend you in this lawsuit will not be me. Because I've been involved in discussions and advising and present, and the insurance people sometimes can choose to appoint me as the insurance lawyer, but 9 times out of 10, they've got an insurance lawyer list they choose from. And I know the lawyers on that list and have worked with them, and it'll be very, very capable legal counsel, and I'll work with them. So I think I've sent a letter to each of you. Does everybody have a copy of the lawsuit? Okay. There's one at my front desk. There's a letter that basically says, as your local legal counsel, you should not discuss any terms of the lawsuit with anybody, with each other, with the public. Basically, we need to freeze in place. I wish my Alabama team had frozen at the first quarter and then gone home. So they chose to play the whole game. So I've advised Hawk the board should take no action at all. Let the lawyers get into this as quickly as is possible and come back to the board and give you legal advice about the lawsuit. And for that reason, I've also told Hawk that the hiring of an airport manager, even on a consultant basis to start with, is a little awkward, because obviously an airport manager is going to take over some of the duties of the current FBO. And since there's currently litigation between us and the FBO as of Monday, I just don't think it's best to go hire somebody to come in from the outside, at least on a very temporary basis, and start to upset the apple cart and change the field of play. And I'm not talking about staying in the status quo for a lengthy time, but at least you've been sued Monday and it's Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. I think we just need to sit tight and call time out on those issues. You can come back in a week or two and take further actions or discussions. My final thought is that I don't know if as an outsider looking in, I know Wingnuts came to the board last spring with a very, very lengthy contract. I got the feeling that the board was not interested in such a lengthy new contract, but at least Wingnuts recognized that the current contract was going to run out in February. I think the board generally said you weren't interested in that contract, but I'm not sure the board ever went back to Wingnuts and said, now let's sit down and let's see what we can do. Then as things went further, nobody kind of did much of anything about trying to negotiate, it seems to me, any new Wingnuts contract. And then after your meeting that you took a vote, at Chairman Ruth's request, I wrote a letter to Wingnuts, but it invited them to say, if you want to sit down and talk, just because we don't want to renew on the old terms doesn't mean we don't want to talk about some new arrangement. And then Anna and Chris sent a letter back before Christmas that says we're basically renewing, but we'll be glad to talk to you after Christmas about any changes. And finally, I had sent Anna a letter about 6 weeks ago, frankly, just on my own, because I was working with her on all these T-hanger issues. And my letter basically says, you know, the airport board's looking at the airport manager concept. The contract's running out in a few months. Those two things cannot coexist. The Wingnuts contract can't stay in place with all its payment duties and bring on an airport manager. You're going to have substantial overlap in who does what, and you don't have enough money to have two people doing what you think the full jobs. And I never heard back from Anna. And I threw my poll out kind of on your behalf, but really as a personal matter. So I in summary, I think both sides have hinted at the idea that there probably needs to be some discussion about a different role. But nobody has gotten close enough to the water trough to find the other one. Now, whether this group wants to, among the lawyers, kind of put a temporary halt on the lawsuit concept with the idea that at least you want to sit down and have a discussion with Wingnuts, because both sides will start to spend substantial money in the next 30 days in lawyer fees, and that's a discussion that I had kind of hoped was going to happen back in the fall, but I'm not sure that it just ever did. Nobody knew who ought to go first, and I think they ought to go first, and they thought I'm not sure. So it's my personal view that maybe you might want to authorize the chairman and the secretary, and at least to have, with lawyers present, now that there's a lawsuit, some discussion across the table about where we're headed.
Clyde, I agree with that. On speaking for myself, I would like to see this resolved amicably, and I hope that, and I would make a motion at this point that Hawk and who did you?
Well, another member, whoever y'all decide. I think you should have 2 members of the board.
Well, I don't want to put another member on who might not want to be there. I would leave it open for volunteers. To go with Hawk, to volunteer to meet with them, with Anna and Chris, to see if this can't be worked out on some basis. I'm not the one to do it, honestly. I'm not the one to be at the table. I have my issues.
Well, in understanding that any meeting such as that would need to be approved by Chris and Anna, and also by their lawyer, and either their lawyer could come and sit in and I would sit in, or if the lawyers all agree, no lawyers would come, and just let y'all talk. That would be up to the client to decide. I guess you're looking for.
Well, nobody's volunteering, so I guess.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just listening to everything going on. I don't have a problem with that. I thought we made that in the letter after we agreed not to extend it. We sent them a letter and said we were open to that discussion, and I'd like to sit down and talk. I know Chris and I tried to get a hold of Chris before that. His schedule didn't match up to my schedule, and there was a day that I couldn't even get out of my driveway because of a major wreck right in front of my driveway again, so I couldn't get to him, and he had schedules in his, and we didn't make it. And he's got the notes that we wanted to talk about, because I wanted to sit down and talk about it. I think it would be a good idea to sit down and talk about it, because we didn't get back to it. We were in the middle of the terminal, as you well know. We couldn't really sit down and do it. And what we got offered just was too complicated to try to sit down and negotiate with. So we are at a point now. I'm open for discussions. I am. I'm open to sit down and listen. If we could work something out. I've got some ideas that I think would be amicable to both of us, but I'm sure he does too. I'll be glad to take the lead, and anybody wants to go with me, Kurt, Chris, to sit down and talk about it.
Well, let me continue or modify my comment to say that it should be Hawk and Clyde, because I think we should have our attorney there under the circumstances, and a person to be determined when Hawk is ready to move on it, that he would recruit somebody. Either
a board member or a city county representative.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
And if you pass this, then Chris can advise his people, and I will send an email letter to his lawyer today and just let him know what the thought process is, and then it'll be up to, I'll wait to hear something.
That would be my motion.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it takes two to tango, so we're ready. If you want to sit down and talk, we'll do it. I'd like to take Kirk with me, Clyde. I know you mentioned to Roger you wanted him kind of help out too. He's more than welcome to be there if he wants to. But he's not any part of the member of the board or anything. So you can check with your guys and see if you want to do that.
I'll take it under advisement of my counsel.
Okay, let me know. Okay,
We'll do it.
I'm leaving tomorrow. I'll be back until Wednesday night. I mean, excuse me, Monday night. I'll be back Monday night, so I'll be out for this.
And I tell you, let's arrange for Chris's lawyer to let me know. I think that's the proper chain right now. I'll look to hear from, and I may send your guy an email.
If you would, please.
And I'll look to hear from him.
If you would, please reach out to him and let him know what was discussed here.
Get you out of the middle on that. Mr. Chairman, those are my comments.
Well, thank you, Clyde. Good wrap up. Appreciate it. Do we have any other discussions or anything? There's one other thing, and I did have on my list, and I should have brought it up sooner. Been looking at these bylaws ever since we got here. And the bylaws were probably written when? Probably back in the 60s.
20 years ago.
20 plus years ago. I don't have a date on it. And I really would, I've talked to Gina about this before, and I think everybody agrees that we really need to go back and update the bylaws. There's a number of things in here that are really out of date and insignificant. The one that really bothers me more than anything in this is the fact that we have to have so many city people and so many county people on the board, number one. And because the population has changed dramatically over the years. And number two is we have to have people with aviation experience. I think aviation knowledge is good enough. Experience, I don't think is, we're getting to the point now that we're transitioning to a municipal airport here with a beautiful hangar and a chance to continue to start growing. And I think if you go down and look at the major airports, you don't see people with a lot of aviation experience there. You see people that have business experience. And I really do believe more important, we need to have people that are current, know how to do business so that we can develop this place, this airport, and reach out. We have enough aviation experience sitting here at this table to be able to manage that. But I believe that the fact that, like, for example, there's a gentleman that wants to be on the board really bad, but his house is one house into the county. Not his dad lives beside him and he's in the city and he's in the county. Well, you know, he's a businessman, has an airplane out here and everything, but we can't get him because of the restrictions we have here. So I'd like to propose that we'd sit down and go through this and try to find the pieces that really need to be updated. And I'm not sure how we do that. Do we have to have a county and city both?
Could you send each of us a copy, email us a copy so we can start to go through it?
Yes, I will send you all of you guys a copy of it. Okay.
With your comments, or whatever comments you formulated up to now.
Okay, we'll do it. Because I do believe that we need to get this off.
I would recommend, while you're modifying that, personally, I wholeheartedly believe that the aviation experience should stay in there, because if not, you're going to get people that might not understand. They might have business acumen, but they don't understand the nuances of an airport, and that's my 2 cents. The other thing I might recommend is, if the city and county would be agreeable to it, opening it up to people who rent hangars and have their aircraft here. Because if their aircraft is rented here, that's a rented piece of property, not unlike renting an apartment in the city or the county. And they would have a vested interest in the airport. Maybe something to float by them to see if they would consider that.
Well, along with that, we've looked at that already, But we have some people here that do want to be on the board. The problem is because of the city county.
Right, and some maybe live in Montgomery County or other counties, but they have their airplane here.
You would have an at-large user type when you would do the bylaws.
Well, and I know we've got some members here that would really like to go on another way and give it up, and we'd like to accommodate that, but finding the people to do that that are willing to give up some spare time or all the time, it would really, it's difficult. And I know Marvin's ready to go. Glenn's probably tired of seeing me too, but it's okay.
Can I ask Clyde, what will the process be of changing bylaws?
Well, and I just mentioned Hawk, you could come up with one or two user at-large members of the board with the only qualification is they utilize in some way the airport facilities. But when you get a draft put together that you're comfortable with, then I think both the city board of mayor and aldermen and the county commissioners would need to kind of ratify it.
Okay.
So you would approve it first, and then we'd get it ratified at City Hall.
That was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
This matters. Thank you.
Good. All good points. I appreciate that. And those in the audience, please understand that this is still going. This litigation's open, so we don't want to throw any more gasoline on this fire and make it public or even more public than it's going to be. So I'd appreciate if everybody just take this all in consideration. All good points. We'll do. I know he said me at church the other day, so I have to behave. Okay. Do we have any other discussions? Okay. If not, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
If you would like to see a copy of the suit, the temporary injunction request, and the contract, as well as more information about the suit itself, simply scroll down if you're viewing this report on our main website.
I love my car that I got from Payne Chevrolet. When they first see it, it's something clean. You know, they get to have fun in.
We actually went in with our baby when he was 2 weeks old. They were absolutely happy to answer any questions that I had.
Right now at Payne Chevrolet, get up to 20% off on select Chevys.
The negotiating process was painless.
Payne Chevrolet in Springfield. 9 decades, 3 generations, 1 tradition.
I got what I asked for at Payne Chevrolet. That's the honest truth.